Welcome to the Path to Be Well podcast, a podcast about being well. I'm Doug Rawson. Join me, Mark Tremblay and Paul Clory, as we provide tips, tools, and strategies while answering your questions with the goal of helping 100,000 people who suffer from a chronic medical condition fulfill a better quality of life by considering the safe use of cannabis in their treatment plan. This information session is intended for individuals who are generally in good health, are generally well-adjusted, are functioning effectively, and are not in need of medical treatment, including for mental health disorders. This information session does not involve the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition or mental disorder and does not prevent, cure, or treat any mental disorder or medical disease. Further, this session is not a substitute for therapy, counseling, psychoanalysis, medical treatment, substance abuse treatment, or the advice or services of a medical professional. It is your responsibility to seek independent guidance from medical professionals to the extent necessary. In this podcast episode, Paul and I bring awareness to our roadmap to wellness. We focus on the first stage, Be Clear, and precisely the second step titled, My Medications. For more information about completing your medication profile, you can download free resources and have them delivered to your inbox. Visit weedwell.co/map2 or send us a text message to 705-805-8264 with a message #map2 to have the link sent to you. If you have a topic that you'd like covered in a future podcast episode, please send us a text message to 705-805-8264. Now, let's join in the conversation. Paul, good day. We're back together again today with another exciting episode for our podcast. It has been a few weeks that we've been together doing our regular podcast live streams. I know the great weather contributed to our little hiatus over the last 2 weeks, but we're back. I'm excited as you are to get going. And Paul, our last episode, we committed to do helping people down what we call our path to wellness and introducing our path to wellness through the roadmap. And last week, we had a great conversation regarding step one of the roadmap. And we really went deep in talking about getting clear about your health selfie. And I've gone back and listened to it a couple of times. I thought it was a great episode. It was a lot of fun doing that with you. And like we said, Mark's sitting in the background watching us. We're going to do the next 11 episodes, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm looking forward to today's episode, where we're going to be taking off from our last conversation about the health selfie, and we're going to go into step 2, which is all about my medications. Paul, like last time, we identified that we have 5 stages to wellness. And we're still in the first stage. And that first stage is called Be Clear. And you did a really good job helping our listening audience understand what Be Clear is all about. Could you paraphrase again for everyone? Let everyone know what really is this first stage in Be Clear. What are we really trying to accomplish and do with this first stage?
So thank you for the intro there, Doug. And it is good to be back. The Be Clear is really it's a stage that we've set up that you're just learning all about yourself. And I think a lot of people have a handle on, let's say, a primary medical condition that they're trying to treat. Other people will have a handle on all their medications, but not understanding what they treat. Some people will understand their medications. And we're saying pause, hit the stop button, what have you, and let's just get an understanding of kind of everything around you and everything around your health. And so, you know, the previous episode is everything about your health selfie. Today piggybacks off that, as you just said, and it's now the medications. So the things that your doctors, your nurse practitioners, your specialists, they've given you, and they've given you because they're looking, for a result of some sort and hoping that you get better. Perhaps you have gotten better a little bit, perhaps not. But what we're really focused on here is clear, as Be Clear suggests, getting the clarity on the medications, why you're taking them, what you hope to achieve, and we're going to go into a lot of detail with that.
Great. Paul, I think one thing that's important is we talked quite a bit about talking about this is a journey, and your journey is your journey. And it isn't a race to the finish. It isn't a race to the end zone. And really going deep on the topic, going deep on the lesson material, and really gaining the clarity you need to gain on your own state of health is really the importance of your own journey of your health. And Paul, you've mentioned this a few times. You know, when we go through these different stages, I think we all have different areas of the stage that we actually like, or that we have a little more relationship towards. And I know you've on many times now talked about the importance of the Be Clear stage. You really said, you know, the other stages that we talk about and introduce with are Be Informed and Be Progressing are important, but it all starts here, Be Clear. And you've really emphasized many times really the importance of that.
Yeah. So it all goes back to that baseline. You're at a starting point here, and the starting point, everything, we're focused on getting results, but everything's going to start from here, getting those results. And so your journey to this date might be months, weeks, if not, we met a lot of people, years of suffering, years of feeling unwell, years of wanting to feel better. And we're not saying forget about that, but let's get a handle on where you're at right now. Let's be clear about that and make sure we're defining exactly where we're at, because each step now, once we gain that clarity, is going to build off the starting point. And so, I guess I come across as emphasizing this as important, but this is exactly why. Every step after this is going to come from here, and you're going to relate it back to here and in how things are improving or not improving.
And Paul, the importance here as well is we're not suggesting to people to contradict or to go against the grain or to change the way that everything's being done. What we're really saying is understand where you're at and why you're there. So sometimes people would say, I no longer want to be on medication X, or I no longer want to be on medication Y, or I don't want to be on medication Z because they're bad, they're evil, you read something about them. And what we're suggesting is, let's not have that conversation. Let's understand why you're on the medication, what's its intended purpose. And once we can document that and you can journalize that according to what your medical conditions are, then we can talk about changes and alterations later. Once we've created a goal and a treatment plan, we've gone through the necessary steps, then we have that conversation. But this stage is really just gain the clarity you need to gain about why are you on those medications. And that's what really the real emphasis and focus is on that.
So this is Roadmap 2, the second part in Be Clear. And one of the resources in Roadmap 2 is a sample medication chart. I figure this is a good thing to talk about as far as we're talking about gaining clarity on your medications. And what we've done is simplify in chart form, starting with medication. What are you taking? For some people, we've met over the years. They talk about the pink pill, the green pill, the white pill, the big pill, the small pill, or the one the doctor gave me. And we want to define now in I'm taking medication, and let's call it by its name. And so for some people, that's it's something they have a handle on. Others, you're going to learn that you have a list of medications. Some are difficult to say, but you're going to learn that. The dose is important, and it's not earth-shattering necessarily to you, but when we start having conversations further down the road, you might be on a large dose of a medication. It may take a while to get off that medication because you're taking such a large dose that your doctor's prescribed. But we won't know that until you take the time, look at the pill bottle or the little receipt that comes along with it, and it says 400 milligrams, 800 milligrams, or whatever unit of measurement it is. So you got the medication name, you got the medication dose. Then you want to look at how often you're taking it, or what we call the frequency of it. And so some medications are, I take it in the morning when I get up. Often some of the sleeping psychiatric pills are taken right before bedtime for obvious reasons, because they're going to help you sleep. And so we want to get an idea of when we're taking and how often during the day, once a day, twice a day, and whatnot. We want to understand, and this now begins into why you're taking it. What's the diagnosis attached to it? Am I taking the medication atenolol twice a day? And I need to know that's for blood pressure. I want to lower my blood pressure. And I'm just giving that as an example. And so that's the diagnosis that goes along with it. And then you begin to understand, if you're one of the individuals with 6, 8, 10 medications, you start seeing you might have 2 or 3 specific to a certain diagnosis. And it's good to understand that. We want to take note of who prescribed the medication as well. And so this comes to your family doctor as an example, or your primary care practitioner. Are you seeing specialists as well? Often, or not often, sometimes what happens when you begin to see multiple practitioners for the same problem, especially if they're not on the same page or you don't have a handle on these medications, one might be prescribing something that they didn't know the other guy or person did, and it could be working against you. So just taking note of this. So who's it prescribed by, and then when it was prescribed, and that will help as well. In one of those, I'm going to say this, and it's not meant to shame or anything like that. What we see sometimes, though, with the pain management medication is, you're allowed 3 times a day, let's say. And if you find over time that the 3 times a day isn't taking the pain off, well, 2 things can happen. You can start taking more, or you can get a larger dose, more milligrams. And so one of the things to know with the date prescribed, if it's supposed to last 28 days before you get your next one, and it's 2 weeks after you just filled it, that's an issue. And I say that's an issue, not as I'm pointing my finger at you, but that's a conversation now that you're having with the doc, because clearly in this case, you're not getting the pain management that you so desire. And so if I just wrap up, you want your medication name, you want your dose, how many milligrams you're taking, the frequency or how often you're taking it during the day, the attached diagnosis, who prescribed it, and then when it was prescribed as well. That's kind of our chart if we gave the 6 categories that you're looking for. And this is baseline as far as your medications go. Over to you, Doug.
Yeah, Paul, a couple comments about that, and thanks for articulating that clearly for everyone. I just want to make one small comment about the date prescribed. And I think you gave a good understanding, appreciation there that, it's not a judging statement. It's if we've gone through it quicker or not as prescribed. And another example might be an antibiotic, for example. If we're supposed to take 3 a day and you're only supposed to have them for 10 days, well, 3 weeks later, there's still some left. You didn't follow the recommended treatment. So there's probably an infection reoccurring because of. But if we can spin off on the date prescribed, another lens I'd like to think about is, I also like to think of this as the date first prescribed. So, for example, if someone is dealing with a mental health condition, depression as for example, and they just started the medicine, the pharmaceutical treatment that the doctor prescribed them 3 weeks ago, and the date they first prescribed is 3 weeks ago, they might not have given it the good opportunity for the therapy to start. If they started 3 months ago or 6 months ago or 3 years ago, it's a different timeline to understand what their journey has been like. So I think it's important to understand, the date, maybe the last time prescribed, but when did you initially start this treatment? And the other little comment I've got was your comment about the specialty. You're right. All practitioners don't communicate all the time, and I think it's important that we know who's prescribing and why they're prescribing. Additionally, if a patient was put on a medication for heart-related issue by their cardiologist, my experience is the family doc's probably not going to tweak with that too much. They're probably going to keep it on the path that cardiologist is on. So keeping this kind of documented is in your best interest. So then, like you identified, all the people are on the same page. A couple of points I want to also bring up, Paul. You mentioned everyone about a resource, and you've talked about our chart. You can use anything. Use the back of a napkin, go to your pharmacy, get a print off what they have. Like, all we're saying is get a copy of what your medicines are. But if you would like to have a fancy chart, which we've created, you can gladly get a copy by going to weedwell.co/map2. And by going to weedwell.co/map2, you're going to get a download of this chart that Paul's talking about, which will guide you through filling out the chart to document your medication history. In addition to that, we'll send you some supporting information to help you along with your journey. Now, if you're not handy to your your computer right now, and you have your phone handy, you can also text us. Send us a text message to 705-805-8264, and simply in the message put #MAP2. Again, that's 705-805-8264. And in the message, send #MAP2. We'll send you a link to this medication record that Paul just led us through. So, Paul, we went over quite a bit here talking about the importance of documenting your medicines. And I'd like to take another little detour in this conversation. And I really like the lens you took about documenting your medicines, because Dr. A might not have spoke to Dr. B. And really, we're asking you to quarterback your care and have a good understanding about all of your care, all your providers, all your practitioners. And that's really what Be Clear is all about. Gain the clarity in your current state of health. The Health Selfie is really about doing that. Gaining the clarity on your conditions, what's your current state of health here and now. And like you identified, Paul, why are you taking these medicines? Don't worry about should you change them. Do you want to change them? Do you want to get off them? That's later conversation. Understand why you're on things now, because once you understand that, you might be able to better appreciate should you even have the conversation about going off or weaning off or decreasing. My comment, Paul, is one thing I think we should not underemphasize is why you're going through this documentation, why you're going through this self-discovery, why you're going through this journey. Don't mitigate and forget about adding over-the-counters, naturopathic remedies. It does not need to be something that was prescribed by your physician that you would traditionally pick up from the pharmacist. It could be any of those other over-the-counter things, because over-the-counters and naturopathic treatments and supplements do provide benefit for many, many people, but they could also interact and cause some other complications to treatments. And we just want to emphasize that we're here to advocate on your behalf, that providers can only provide you the support if you give them the information about what you're on. Hi, Doug here from Weedwell. I wanted to hop in here for a moment as we're excited to share with you how we see our community grow every day. I want to extend a warm welcome to join our community, get tips, tools, and resources while collaborating with others to support you on your health journey. Look for us at weedwell.group.
Yes, I that's kind of a spoiler to where we head to later on in our path to be well, but we'll often, as the path continues, talk about advocating for your own health. And, we've often met a lot of people who have come from a background of the doctor knows best, and the doctor told me to take this twice a day, and I do that. I do that religiously, and that's great that you follow the directions. But what we really want you to do is, take ownership of this yourself and continue taking it twice a day. But understand that it's attached to this diagnosis. Let's say, again, to go back to the blood pressure example, and so I'm taking it so I can lower my blood pressure, and I don't want the issues that are going to arise from the high blood pressure. That's empowering. And just looking at your, it seems like such a small step, but if you're one of those that I'm talking about here, and I'm not labeling you, but that's empowering, getting to that step of looking at your healthcare as, I have a say in this. I have a handle in this. I have a stake in this, if you will. And by understanding even the basics like this, it allows you or it enables you to put that opinion forward or really begin to talk about how you're feeling based on this medication. It totally spins the conversation from I took it because the doctor told me versus I take it to lower my blood pressure. And now every time I'm going to my doctor, my blood pressure is 120 on 80. It's perfect. They're telling me it's great. And so that's a whole different mindset. And when we talk small wins, if that's a win for you, that's actually a pretty big win. But when we talk small wins, that's a win.
Paul, I really like the Be Clear stage. And the Be Clear stage, again, is really all about gaining clarity in your current state of health. And today we've been talking quite a bit about the medications and how the medications tells the story. And Paul, the path to be well is really about helping people understand if cannabis is a safe treatment option for you and how you can actually look at introducing it as a treatment option. And as we look at our roadmap, as we look at the path to wellness and utilizing that roadmap, we don't even start talking about even considering implementing cannabis as a treatment modality until step 5. And really what we're saying here, like you just said, is this journey you're on is really about taking these small steps and these wins and really celebrate those. And I like how you just said that, like, if this small step is completing this medication, you have a better understanding, then applaud yourself. Like that's a huge win for you. But Paul, I want to just go backwards a little bit if I can. If we think about the consumer in this stage, in the stage of Be Clear, from our experience, Paul, the individual in the stage is really someone that's been suffering from a chronic condition and they're frustrated. They're frustrated that getting help is difficult, that they're not sure where to go. They don't know what to believe and where to go. And although we've talked about what the future path can look like, these small wins add up to get you to where you want to get to. But Paul, when we're talking about these medications and documenting this and journaling this, today when we talk about that, it sounds easy, but if I'm dealing with multiple chronic conditions, multiple medications, multiple specialists, this is actually a bigger deal than it sounds. What are some resources? What are some places I can turn to if I want to journalize this and document this like you've identified today? Like, how do I even begin?
So you've already touched on one, your pharmacist. Where you fill your prescriptions is a good place to start. And so every time you fill a prescription, you have that sheet of paper that accompanies, usually stapled to the bag. And on the back, quite often, is your previous list. Let's say your last 10 or 15 medications that you filled there. Now, if you use multiple pharmacies, it might require a visit to the other pharmacies as well to get the complete list. But that's a good starting point. The next time you're in to see the specialist, in to see the primary care practitioner, that's a perfectly appropriate question to ask. What exactly am I on, and what are we trying to accomplish with this? I'm sorry I didn't ask before, but I had this idea that I should know, and I want to understand more. Can you help me out? And you can go about it that way. And so there's that. Now, with regards to you mentioned, and quite rightly, the over-the-counter stuff, the Tylenols, Advils, any number of products. You might have to go into your cupboards, and if it's anything like mine feels like, sometimes you might find some old stuff there, which is a good indication that I'm not using this. I probably should bring it back to the pharmacy and get rid of it that way. And that's the appropriate way to do it. That's an aside. But as you open the cabinet and figure out what it is that you use, your eyes in that sense are going to be your tool for that. And if I'm using this regularly, or I'm using this once a week, or whatever, get that on the list as well. Now, that might become, that's good, for the list itself. But as you want to start filling in things towards a diagnosis, honestly, putting that name of that medication or the name of that product into Google is going to give you, generally, it'll put an associated reason for your taking this, and that'll be your diagnosis. And so you can start filling in things that way. And then if you don't have things like the date you started this, give it a best guess. It's not a pass fail. And if you don't, start remembering it now. And you can start keeping track of different things that you're assessing for, as in what are you trying to improve or get better with this medication or this product. And you can start watching it now or from now on. As we both said, that's a win. If you just start from today doing that, that's going to be a win.
Paul, you brought up the pharmacist. I'd like to circle back there for a sec. You talked about, often they'll keep a copy of the medication profile, be stapled to the receipt or to the back of the bag of the medications. But the pharmacist is as well a great resource. And feel free to book some time, have a consultation with the pharmacist. And they are equally able to review commonly why the medication would be prescribed, what that would be used for, and they could provide some detailed analysis and help with you as you go deep in gaining the clarity with your medication profile.
Yeah, I remember, one of our first, it feels like a really long time ago, one of our first 5, I think, episodes for our podcast was with Pharmacist Jay. And, it was quite enlightening to hear the number of things that he does as part of his job and presenting the medications. It's not just dumping a bunch of pills into a bottle and handing it over to you. There's a lot more to it than that. And you know what? That is that's their thing. If you want to know anything about a medication, that's what they've focused time, effort, energy on for years. And so they can help you. And generally, and this is no slam to docs or whatever, your odds of getting in to talk to a pharmacist in a relatively short amount of time is a lot higher than trying to get into your family doc, especially in the era that we are in right now, where getting appointments is just more difficult overall.
Paul, just to reiterate today, really we're trying to add some clarity to people's current state of health. And we're really focused today on our first stage of wellness. We call our first stage of wellness Be Clear. You identified a little while ago, really it's about gaining that clarity on your current state of health by doing what we call the health selfie. And really it's just about taking a snapshot about where you are here and now, understanding about your current state of health. What are your medical conditions? What does that look like? And really today the focus is really about your medications, documenting them, understanding about your medications, because this tells a story and it really complements more about what we talked about on our last episode about the health selfie. And this rounds out our first stage of Be Clear. Again, to access the resources, you can get them at weedwell.co/map2 or send us a text message to 705-805-8264 with a message #MAP2. Paul, we've committed to help people down the path to wellness, really focusing on the roadmap to wellness. And our focus today was on roadmap number 2 with a real focus on medications. I think this has been a great conversation. In closing, is there anything missing, anything that you felt that we didn't capture that you'd like to bring home? From my view, I think we've done it. And
like everything on our path to be well, this win that we're looking to have you gain, it may be easy because you understand a lot of what you're taking. You might not have very many medications, and that's fine. And so put the amount of effort that is required in. But if you're one of lots of people suffering from multiple chronic medical conditions, you're going to find that your list is a pretty big list, and your understanding may vary to certain treatments, certain medications. And so it may require more time just to get that handle and get that starting point. We can't emphasize enough. I know everyone wants to feel better today, or if not yesterday, but take the time, get this information around your medical conditions and as specific to today's conversation, your medications, get a handle on that and get a good understanding. And believe me, it will help you going forward. And
Paul, thanks for this discussion today. I think it's always enlightening to hear, especially when we really narrow down our conversation, our focus. I look forward to our next conversation. I believe next week we're going to be diving into our roadmap step number 3, which is really about the be aware stage, which you'll enlighten us about what that'll be next week. And we're really going to focus on stage number 3, step number 3, which is all about sleep. So until then, Paul, thanks for this. And I look forward to our next conversation next week. Until then, be well. Thanks for joining us this week on the Path to Be Well podcast, a podcast about being well. Make sure to visit our website at weedwell.com, where you can subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in this week's show, we'd appreciate you sharing this podcast or leaving a comment or rating. We look forward to you joining us next time. Until then, be well.